Hi, and welcome to TXDZNY. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about some tips that are very useful to use when you're planning and thinking about before your Disney trip. So I've done a video where I discuss some of my top 10 tips on Disney trips with and without kids and stuff like that. But this video is going to be all about stuff kind of with your planning of a Disney vacation. So for some of you that didn't know, I was a travel agent specializing in Disney for a couple of years. I did it on the side. I worked a regular, 40-hour work week at a regular job, but I did do some Disney travel agent stuff on the side for a few years. So I do know how to plan people's trips, and obviously with going with and without kids for so long and so many times, I feel I know what's best for a lot of families with different budgets. So I'll pop into now of some of my tips that I think, and I'm going to try doing these as far back as possible and kind of give it as a breakdown as far back as you need to start thinking about your vacation planning. And my first tip is to book it as far in advance as you possibly can. There's several reasons for this. The number one reason is first off, for your budget allows you some time to save money and stuff like that. Also, your availability for the exact rooms that you might want at a Disney resort and stuff like that are going to be a lot more wide open if you're booking something like 9, 10, 11, 12 months in advance, where if you're booking last minute, a lot of the rooms that you maybe want at certain resorts or might completely be booked. So the further you book out in advance, the more likely you are to get exactly what you want. We, over the last few years, have really liked using the DVC rental store. This is a website that you can, in essence, rent people's Disney Vacation Club points for your trip. So you make a request, and the further out you make these requests, the more of a likelihood it gets picked up. Certain resorts are harder to get than other ones, but I always recommend trying to do this as far out as you can in advance. We, in general, I think we've used it about 5 times. I've always tried doing it about 9, 10 months in advance and have had no issue getting the exact hotel, resort, and room that we want, even requesting certain buildings, and that has worked out. So I highly recommend doing that. The drawback of using a company like the DVC rental store is to make your request, you have to pay $100 to make your request. Now, if your request doesn't get picked up, you do get that $100 back if you let it sit there for a little bit. But we've never had, I think the longest we've made a request and didn't get picked up was like 8 days. But that can vary based on when you're trying to go and things like that. But then once your request is picked up, you have to pay 25% of what the cost is for your room. So let's say you're booking a room and it's $4,000 for your trip. You do have to give $1,000 right then once it gets picked up. And the remaining 75% is due 75 days out from your trip. So that is a little bit of a drawback from it. We've never had an issue with it. We actually prefer doing it this way. You're not having to pay an obscene amount up front, but it is great. And those DVC rooms in a lot of these places are top notch. So that's something to big time think about. So that's my first tip, is to book far in advance and think about using a store like DVC Rental Store to maybe give yourself a little bit of more space and stuff like that on your Disney vacation. So my next tip is, if you're not going to use a rental store like that, is to use a travel agent specializing in Disney. Don't just try to wing it by yourself. Now, if you have a lot of Disney knowledge and you know how to do it, that's one thing. But if you kind of don't know what you're doing, use a travel agent specializing in Disney. That's what they do. You're not paying them anything to do the service. If anything, they should be trying to save you money and giving you all the tips and tricks and doing a lot of the things for you for your Disney vacation. This channel isn't sponsored by any travel agency, so I'm not going to give any exact companies that you should use, but there's several out there. I feel like everybody knows at least one or two friends or something that is a travel agent specializing in Disney. Whether they're good or not, I don't know, but there's plenty of avenues for you to look to get someone who's a agent that can book your Disney trip for you. Now, one of the pros to booking through a travel agent or doing it yourself directly through Disney is that when you're doing your whole vacation package, with tickets and resort and everything like that, when you book, you only have to give $200 to reserve what you're booking initially. And the remaining balance is due 30 days out. So same thing if you're booking really far out, they can give you a little bit of a guide to know how much money you got to pay and save over the course of time. But you do only have to do $200 no matter what your vacation package is. So that's a good little bonus that you do. And a good idea with that sometimes, if you're booking really far in advance, is to get the travel insurance on it in case something happens or you got to cancel, or maybe something pops up financially where you do have to cancel and you didn't waste whatever you have already paid for it. So those are the two main avenues that I recommend for people to do when they're trying to book their room and their vacation, is to use a place like a DVC rental store, use a travel agency. Like I said, if you have a lot of experience in Disney trips and you feel confident doing it yourself, that's always great as well. But it is nice to have someone to maybe go and get those dining reservations for you and things like that. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Now, this next tip is probably the biggest tip I get asked about the most, and that is to have a budget and know what fits inside that budget for your trip. It's everyone has different budgets, so there's no exact answer to this. Someone's budget might be for a quick trip at a value resort, someone might be for 10 days at a deluxe resort, and they don't care how much they spend. So there's no exact answer to say how you should do your trip on this. But what I can do is give you some tips on what to expect when you are budgeting. The biggest thing I tell people when they're budgeting is, don't think that just the money you're going to spend is going to be for your flight, your tickets, and your resort. Even if you're not flying and you're driving and stuff like that, just don't think what it is to do all that is what your price is. This isn't like an all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean. It's once you're there, you are going to spend quite a bit of money at Disney World, so you do have to budget for that. And this is where your budget can really go in any direction. Like for me, I'm a family of four, and I like getting Lightning Lane multi-pass and the individual Lightning Lanes for all four of us. Me knowing that, I know that that's going to be roughly about $150, $200 a day. So I know when I'm going into a trip, if I'm going for 6 days, that I'm roughly going to be spending, about $1,200 just on my multi-pass and my Lightning Lanes. But obviously, that's not something that everybody's going to want to spend money on. But I know when I'm budgeting my trip that that's something I'm going to have to spend money on. So these are some of the things that you do have to decide maybe when budgeting, and how far to book out from your trip if you do want to purchase these things. One of the biggest things that people spend money on their Disney trip is obviously food and drink. My kids are little right now, given they're 4 and 6, but we try to do at least a character meal or two with them. Me and my wife like doing a nice dinner or two while we're there. So in general, we like doing about 4 or 5 really nice meals while we're there, and those meals will definitely run you upwards of $200-300 most of the time. So you have to budget for that. But even if you're not doing that, you do have to budget in. The kids are going to have to, and you're going to have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And are you going to be drinking when you're in the parks? These are all things that you have to budget for when you're planning your trip. So let's just say you're roughly spending, $400 a day for a 5-day trip. That's $2,000 in just food and drink that you're going to have to budget for. So you have to think about all these things when you're budgeting your trip. Your budget isn't only going to go towards what your, like I said, your flight, your resort, and your tickets. You have to budget in this food, drinks, whether you want to get the multi-pass and things like that. Now, obviously, there are ways to save some money and cut down on some of these things, like not getting the multi-pass Lightning Lane, maybe just kind of eating quick services, or even maybe having some food delivered to your room, through a Shipt app or something like that, or Uber Eats, whatever it might be. That might be a little bit of a cheaper option for you than how much Disney charges for things. But either way, you are going to have to eat and drink while you're on your Disney vacation. So don't forget to factor that in as part of your budget. We, in general, it obviously depends on what resort we're staying at, but we roughly budget close to about $8,000 to $10,000 for almost every Disney trip if we're going for about a week or so, because that's about how much it costs us after we factor everything in. And we know that going into it. So when I'm trying to budget, if I only have like $5,000 to the side, I know I either have to do a quick trip, or I have to maybe sacrifice a few things, or I have to wait for my trip a little bit. So you have to think about these things, and that's when booking in advance can really help you. It kind of gives you a goal, and you can set up kind of like a spreadsheet on how much you need to save each paycheck, each month, and stuff to be able to go on the trip with your certain budget. Another big way to save money is maybe realizing what resort works for you. You know, you don't have to stay. Your friend maybe stayed at the Grand Floridian and they maybe make, quite a bit more money than you. They're saying, oh, you got to stay at the Grand Floridian, but you might be a family that is going to wake up, rope drop every morning, not really eat at the resort, and just come back after fireworks. So maybe spending, $500-600 on a night at the Grand Floridian doesn't work for you, where staying for $199 at Pop Century works better for your family. And if you're staying for 5 days, let's say, you just saved yourself $2,000 just by your resort stay. So this is where we're talking to a travel agent specializing in Disney, or people who have a lot of Disney knowledge, can really, really help you know, giving you tips what resort works for your family and ways to save money if that's what you're interested in. We've recently gotten the habit of staying off site for like every other trip or so. This allows us to go to Disney World more frequently than what would normally cost us, and this saves us some money. Um, Staying off property, you can like, for example, we stay at Sheraton Vistana some of these times, and we can pack my whole family and my sister's whole family, so 8 of us, into one of these 2-bedroom villas, if you want to call it. It's only about $250 a night, so you're talking $125 a couple. So we're saving a lot of money that way. And a lot of times we'll just take Ubers to and from the park, which saves a lot of time with having to wait for buses, or just things like that. And that's another way to save money, is to think about staying off property. Yes, you lose some of the benefits of staying on property, but you do save some money in your pocket. I know money saving tips are some of the biggest things that people want to know more in depth things about. So ask any questions in the comments if you want me to answer anything, or just comment on what you maybe want me to do future videos about to elaborate on. So just comment below, or anything like that, or DM me on my TXDZNY page if you have any more questions regarding how to save money on your Disney trip. My next big tip is to be mindful of the things that you need to know before going on your trip. This is where sometimes having a good travel agent specializing in Disney could really help you. When I'm saying things that you need to know before going on your Disney trip, I'm talking about things that you maybe need to book and do in advance. That if you're just someone who's never been to Disney, that you have no clue, and you just think you could go sit at Cinderella's table the day you walk into Magic Kingdom, and you're going to be in for a surprise when they tell you, oh, no way, you need to book, you need to have that book 60 days in advance. This is where having some of those agents or some friends or just the knowledge can really help you. So that's the first thing I'm going to talk about, is having those dining reservations that you can book 60 days out. This is the same whether you're staying at a Disney resort or a non-resort guest. I will say that these dining options for some of these top reservations aren't as hard to get as they used to be. Your top tier ones are still kind of hard to get, and they will go exactly in the morning, 60 days out, some of these places. But they are a little bit easier to get nowadays, because Disney World is getting so expensive. People are sacrificing quite a bit at some of these table service restaurants because they don't want to spend an additional $300 for meals when they've already spent thousands upon $1,000 on their actual trip. So you still want to try to get these dining reservations 60 days out. If you have a good travel agent specializing in Disney, they will do this for you. This is not something that you do 60 days out and then you can do it for your whole trip. You have to go in every single day and book whatever dining reservations you want. So this does require some planning. You do need to know kind of what days you can do certain parks at this. If let's say I want to really eat at Le Cellier at the Canada Pavilion in Epcot, I have to kind of decide which day I'm going to go to Epcot and try to get that Le Cellier dining reservation. Same thing if you want to do a breakfast at Ohana on a day that you're going to Magic Kingdom, you need to know what day you are going to Magic Kingdom. So you kind of need to have a game plan before the 60 days out, is when you need to kind of know exactly what parks you maybe want to go to, and everything like that. These dining reservations do pop up right around like 5:45-ish a.m. Eastern time, 60 days out. That can vary, sometimes it'll be 5-10 minutes later than that. So if you're going to be doing it yourself, make sure you're logged onto your My Disney Experience app and trying to get those reservations right at 60 days out, because a lot of these ones will go soon as the clock hits 5:45. So you really have to have a game plan as what you're going to do with your dining reservations for your Disney trip, and have that all kind of game plan 60 days out to get the ideal maybe character meals and everything that you want. The next thing that you need to know is that if you're staying at a Disney resort, your Lightning Lane multi-pass can be purchased 7 days out. And this can be purchased for your whole entire trip, actually. And you can make your 3 ride selections for your whole trip doing that out. This is also something that your travel agent specializing in Disney can do for you. And then if you're staying off-site, you can do this 3 days out. And if you're doing it off-site, you do have to go in each day. It's not going to be where you get to do it for your whole trip. You're going to have to go in every single day and do your 3 rides. But if you're staying on property, you do get to do it at 7 days out and for your whole trip. So that's something you really want to get on if you're going to do it, to try to get the best ride selections that you can if you're going to be paying that steep price for the Lightning Lane multi-pass. And the individual Lightning Lanes, those can be purchased at 7 a.m. On your Disney trips. And if you're not a resort guest, it's when the park opens. So those are going to be a daily purchase if you want to do those. Another great thing to think about if you're staying at a Disney resort is to utilize that early park entry for 30 minutes every day at all 4 parks. This is only for Disney resort guests. It doesn't make a difference of your price level of your resort. You're allowed to go to the park 30 minutes early. So if, let's say, the park's opening at 8, you can go in at 7:30, and it's only going to let the Disney resort guests in. This is a great time. A lot of times at that rope drop time anyway, you can easily go ride a ride or two, even without doing your Lightning Lane multi-pass. So if you're trying to save money and not do that multi-pass, a great way to do this is to utilize those extra hours in the morning and rope drop. I know it's early in the morning, but you're going to save a lot of time, and you're going to be able to go on about 2-3 of those rides that you really, really want to go on, that if you in general try to wait until the park open to go on, you're going to have to wait in really long lines. So it is worth it sometimes for you to maybe go to bed early, maybe miss fireworks a night or two, and so you can wake up and get those extra hours in the morning if you're staying at a Disney resort. So the next biggest thing I get asked all the time, besides how do I save money on my trip and where should I stay and all these other things, is what do I need to bring and when should I go? And so that obviously depends, especially what should I bring question, because it is Florida after all. Does rain quite a bit in Central Florida, and it is hot quite a bit. But it is the weather after all, so it is rather unpredictable. I can't tell you that in April it's going to be really nice and sunny and you're going to be able to go in the pool every day, and then it might be rainy and only like 70 degrees. So don't take this as it's like 100% what you should do and all this, because it is weather, and just pay attention to what the weather is going to be like on your Disney trip for some of these tips upcoming. My first tip that I always tell everybody is I always try to dress comfortable. I know a lot of girls and stuff want to dress up and look cute in their park day outfits and stuff like that. And that's fine. I totally get that. You want to do for some nice picture and stuff like me. I'm just going to go in generally shorts and a t-shirt and some comfortable sneakers, and I want to be comfortable when I'm going around the park. But even if you're going to dress up and stuff like that, always try to wear comfortable shoes. These Disney days are really, really long. If you're going for a week, you're on your feet a lot for a week and for very long days. So make sure you have you and your whole party in some comfortable shoes for your Disney trip. The next thing is that it is very hot in Central Florida. Anywhere from around the March-April time frame all the way through almost to October, it's generally pretty warm. Obviously, that can change on certain days, but especially that June, July, August, September time frame, it's really going to be hot. So be mindful of that. Make sure you're staying hydrating and stuff like that. But when you're thinking about what you're going to wear in the parks, make sure, and what you're going to bring, make sure you're bringing sunscreen. Make sure you're dressing light, nothing that's heavy on you and stuff like that. Even when the sun goes down at night, you're not going to get cold in those hot summer months. So wear what's ever comfortable and kind of light for you on those Disney summer days. We're a family that really likes going to Disney pretty much every year during the Christmas time frame. We have realized during this Christmas time frame, a lot of the weather, it seems like, where it's a lot of it's very up and down. Where in the morning when you go into the parks, you might be a little chilly, but by midday you want to be in shorts and a t-shirt, and then when the sun goes down, you might want to be putting on a sweater. So my advice would be on these days, when you're not sure of the weather, kind of you're almost having to pack for all weather. So, but make sure when you're going to the park that day, you do pack maybe a sweater to go into the park. My wife and my two kids get cold way easier than I do. So even in like sometimes these even warmer months, not like in the heat of the summer, but they will we'll pack them a sweater pretty much every night just in case they get cold. And that's something to think about when you're doing it. You might be going in a time frame that you're thinking, okay, April, May, I'm not going to need a sweater, but maybe just pack one just in case if you're someone who gets a little bit chilly when the sun goes down. Now, this one is a little bit contrary to what a lot of people believe, and that is that in January and February, it will get cold in Florida. I mean, if you're coming from Minnesota or something like that, obviously it's not comparable to that, but it will get down into the 30s and stuff like that. And we've had our last like 3 trips that we've gone to that were in a January and February time frames. It was very, very cold. Where was if there was precipitation in the air, it would have snowed or sleeted or something like that. Where it was in the low 30s in the mornings and stuff like that. So when you're going during this time frame, just pay attention to the weather and know what you need to pack. But it will get cold. Just don't assume, hey, I'm a northerner going down to Florida for the winter and it's going to be beautiful there. It does get cold there. You might hit it where it isn't, but there are time frames where it does get really cold. So just pay attention to your weather when you're doing it. A big tip for Central Florida in general is with your Disney trips is to prepare for rain. This is especially true for the summer months. It almost rains every single day at Disney World in the summer. Um, Normally not for the whole day. It'll be a sprinkle here or there, and or it'll really downpour for a little bit. But it's enough to really soak you if you can't get any coverage or something like that. Me, oddly, I really like it when it rains at Disney World. The main reason is it kind of drives a lot of people out of the parks. So I always stick it out. And when I'm sticking it out, the people leave. I just have a poncho on, or I go inside somewhere, go have a drink or two or something like that, and just kind of chill. And a lot of people go back to their resort. Locals don't even come to the park a lot of the times when they know it's going to rain. And it's best to stick it out. But the thing that you need to know when you're doing this is we like packing a poncho with us because they do upcharge you a ton at Disney World. So regardless of when we go to Disney World, we always pack all 4 of us ponchos. And so if it does rain and doesn't mess up our day, we have our ponchos just to throw on. This is a lot easier right now with my kids at their age. We, even though they could walk around the park for the whole day, we still bring the stroller, and having a stroller with us does make it where we can bring a lot more things with us because we have that storage. Um, and I'm going to miss a stroller when the kids 100% don't need it anymore. But right now, storage isn't an issue with us with the stroller, being able to use it for our trips. So, um, but bring a poncho with you if you can to save some money. But if not, make sure you do it. And it is best just to stick out those rainy days. Another big tip on those rainy days is to, if you know it's going to rain and you know you're going to go to the parks, wear the appropriate shoes, maybe even clothing. I'll wear like hybrid shorts and kind of like a more athletic kind of shirt that is more breathable for me. And I'll wear sandals, for instance, if I know it's going to rain. The kids will do a lot of the same. I'll put them in like a swimsuit. I'll bring an extra pair of underwear and stuff for them to change into once it dries up. And we'll put them in sandals or Crocs and stuff like that. This makes it where it doesn't ruin your shoes and they're not soaked your whole entire trip. And the kids don't mind sitting there playing with it. And if you know this in advance, we always, every time, especially with the kids, we always have an extra pair of clothes with them just in case they have an accident or something like that with the rain. But make sure, especially shoes, you have something if you know it's going to rain, and have something like sandals or Crocs on those days is the best to be able to absorb that rain on those rainy days. So my wife is a huge overpacker. I joke around with her all the time about it doesn't make a difference where we're going, how many days we're going. I joke with her that she's packing like we're moving there. She was even like this before kids, but obviously it's even worse with kids. But at the end of the day, we're prepared, which is great. So a great way to save some money and to make sure and put your mind at ease and sometimes in all these things, to help you prepare for your trip, is to pack some of the things that you know that you're going to use. Whether it be sunscreen, your own shampoo, soap, toothpaste, toothbrush. Um, for the kids, make sure we have Tylenol for them in case they need it. All these things, they're easier to bring there with you, and you will save money, because the last thing you want to do is be able to go there and have to spend money at all these shops there at Disney, and where it's in a way upcharged for little babies, diapers and wipes and stuff like that. So try to bring as much as you can with you without big time overpacking. But it is best to bring a lot of the things that you think that you're going to need for your trip. My last and final tip for this is really only going to apply to people, staying at a villa at a Disney Vacation Club if you decide to rent through a company like DVC Rental Store, or if you're staying like off property or something at a villa that has a kitchen. It's not really going to apply to people staying at regular Disney resort rooms or at a regular just hotel. And that is that we like having a company come and bring us food for our villa for breakfast and coffee, especially. And this saves us, first off, a lot of time, and it saves us a lot of money. My wife takes longer than the rest of us to get ready. My kids, I can get ready fast. Both my kids are morning people. I'm a morning person. My wife is not a morning person. And obviously, just being a girl takes her a little bit longer to get ready. But so a lot of the times, me and the two kids are full on ready, and we're still waiting for her. So instead of just sitting there, it's really useful to your time, where I can sit there and give them breakfast at the villa while we're doing that. I can make me and her a cup of coffee while we're doing that. So when she's done, we're not having to still go worry about the kids and go and getting them breakfast and go and stop and get a cup of coffee. I mean, one of the little things that agitates me more than anything, I need a cup of coffee every morning, but I find it so odd when people like get up in the morning and then they get to a Disney park and they sit there and wait at a Starbucks line at 9 a.m. for an hour when they could be doing so many other things. When if you could have just had your cup of coffee at your resort or something before you got here, you could have done a lot more that day. So I tried doing all that in advance. A big thing, I know my wife used a company called Shipt. There's, obviously different companies that you can use to deliver you stuff. So we try, if we're staying at like a villa or even off property at a villa, having a grocery order delivered to us pretty much just for breakfast foods and coffee and stuff like that. Maybe some snacks for the kids inside the parks to keep them going and stuff, and maybe some beer or wine and stuff for us late night if we care to stay up after the parks. But this is a great way to save money. If you're going into the parks, get there and have to go spend money on a Disney breakfast and a Disney coffee every morning, it can get pricey. So you can save that money and save time by doing that at your villa. So there's some of my tips and a little bit of tricks for you to have before you're going on your Disney trip. This is all stuff to kind of think about before your trip or right when you're getting on your trip, to do in advance. So I hope this helps some of you guys out and can help you save some money and get you thinking a little bit proactively about your Disney trip. So I want to say thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and thank you. Bye.